You like to go to a lot of the national parks.
Mm-hmm.
How many of them have you been to?
45.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What are the ones you haven't been to? At least like the general areas.
Alaska, Hawaii, down in Florida, and Michigan.
Gotcha. And so you already said Yosemite and Tetons were two of your favorites.
Yep.
Can we fill out a top 5?
Top 5. Ooh. Okay. So Yosemite and the Tetons, Carlsbad Caverns, which it may not be like the most like wow kind of park, but I had never seen anything like that like in my whole entire life. So when I was there, I was like, this is incredible. And I loved that. So that would probably be in the top 5. Let's see. It's like when you ask me this question, all of a sudden all the national parks just leave my head. I know I'm going through like California. I really loved Arches a lot. I just love that area, like the whole like Moab-y area.
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing. And probably the Grand Canyon. You know,
that's a classic.
Yeah. And like part of me didn't really want to say it because it is such a classic, but it's a special place. It's a special place, you know, and I got the opportunity. I hiked down into the canyon by myself last January. And it was great. It was just so cool. And just to see something so vast like that, it's just, I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah, I feel that way a lot about places that we go to as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned like it's a special place, and there certainly is a very real feeling when you go to these places that it's hard to explain what it is. But, you know, you're like, oh, it's cool, it's otherworldly, it's spiritual in some sense. But everywhere you go, a lot of these national parks are that way too.
Mm-hmm.
You get in there for the first time, and you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's a feeling that I think a lot of people, they don't get until they go the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get hooked, probably like you
yes.
did. Now, with you going to all these national parks and living in your van, are you staying inside the park when you go?
Sometimes. I mean, I do everything I can to not pay for camping. Obviously, that's part of why I think anyone would go live in their van or car. But, you know, during the off season, sometimes there's spots you can just find and huddle up and no one really cares, I guess. But I feel like majority of the time I tend to stay a little outside the park. There's usually more BLM land around it than obviously inside of it. And yeah, so I would say more often than not, I'm outside of it, but here and there I can sneak in.
Gotcha. And so for those who don't know, BLM is the Bureau of Land Management, and on their lands, pretty much camping is allowed almost anywhere you want. You know, there's some restrictions and rules you have to try and follow. But how are you going about trying to find those lands? Are there good maps people can find online? Like, what's the best way for people to do the same kind of thing you do when they're planning trips or vacations, whatever?
First of all, Google, I have learned, has every single answer that you could ever need. Maybe not every single answer, but yeah, if you want to find free camping near literally anywhere, just type it into Google. And you'll either have blogs or, you know, it'll bring you to an app or something. I tend to use iOverlander and Free Roam. Those are both apps that I love, and they work really well. And everything that's always been on there has, I don't know, I guess fulfilled its purpose. So that's usually my go-to.
Yeah. And being alone out there doing van life, do you ever get worried about the places you're staying? Is there any kind of security issues that you've ever thought about?
Honestly, no. I've never really felt unsafe or scared, you know, in terms of being alone and sleeping by myself. I mean, I do think it's important to be very cautious, obviously, and know your surroundings and not just kind of, you know, be whatever. But no, I've never really felt scared or that like something was going to happen. There's maybe been 1 or 2 nights out of the almost year I've been out where I've maybe been like, maybe I'll just move my van a little bit, or like, like something, but it's never been that big of an issue. But I think as long as you're aware of, where you're going and what you're doing and who's around, that's the most important thing. But
And maybe like if you do get a feeling that you should move, be ready and okay to move.
yes.
Like
yeah.
don't just sit in that and
Yeah.
be scared or worried all night.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to take care of yourself and find
Totally.
some more comfortable places to be. And a lot of it probably also has to do with the people that you know or you might be hanging out with. Because I think it's a really interesting difference between what you do and what we do a lot. Because most of the time when we go out, we're with a bigger group, at least 4 or 5 people. And so we're never going out in the middle of the desert alone.
Yeah.
We always have, a little posse that we're running with. And so that part of it makes the whole camping in strange places a lot more comfortable because you're with other people.